An old man falls out of a plane in complete silence. A man melts into a puddle screaming. A villain gets torn apart by his own resurrection spell while he's still alive to feel it. These aren't horror movies. They're Disney and Pixar, kids' movies. By the end of this video, you'll know the single darkest villain death animation has ever put on screen. The one Disney has spent decades quietly pretending doesn't exist. But we're building up to it, because the ones before it are exactly what taught these studios how far they could push it.
But before, please subscribe. As my mom said, I couldn't complete 1,000 subscribers before July ends, and I want to prove her wrong. Syndrome is the smartest person in this movie, and that's the whole problem. He out-engineers superheroes. He builds a robot that adapts in real time. He gets seconds away from a clean win. Then he dies because of a joke from earlier in the film. Remember Edna Mode's rant about capes? No capes! She lists off hero after hero who died because loose fabric caught on something it shouldn't have.
No capes!
Nobody in the theater thought it mattered.
Then, Syndrome tries to fly away clean, and his own cape gets sucked into his jet's engine intake. No slow motion, no last words. 1 second he's escaping, the next he's yanked backward and the plane detonates with him inside it. Here's why this one sticks. It's completely avoidable. This is a man who accounted for every possible way a hero could stop him and got taken out by a wardrobe malfunction he personally mocked 10 minutes earlier. Irony killed him, not gore. And irony is the easy version of this list. What happens when a death isn't clever? When it's just quiet? That's next.
Number 7, Charles Muntz. Muntz doesn't start this movie as a villain. He starts it as a broken old man who spent his whole life chasing a dream that made him paranoid, isolated, and eventually willing to kill to protect his name. By the final act, he's not a villain anymore. He's a tragedy wearing a villain's coat. During the fight on his airship, Muntz gets tangled in the balloons holding Carl's house up, and he's pulled loose from the ship entirely. Watch what the movie does next. No impact shot, just Muntz falling, getting smaller against the clouds, and a cut to black. No scream, no music sting, just distance and silence. That restraint is the disturbing part. Pixar could have written him a rescue, a redemption arc, a death off screen. Instead, they let you watch an old man drop out of the sky without a sound, and they trust you to sit with it instead of softening it. Muntz got silence. Our next villain gets one single frame, and that frame is the reason people are still talking about it. Clayton. Ask anyone, what's the most disturbing Disney villain death? And this is usually the first name out of their mouth. Clayton chases Tarzan through the jungle with a rifle, gets tangled in vines, and in the struggle, one of those vines wraps around his neck. The movie shows him falling, then a flash of lightning. And in that single frame, backlit, fast, easy to miss, you see his silhouette hanging motionless.
Wait, don't!
People who watch this as kids say the same thing over and over. They didn't clock what happened the first time. It moves fast. Disney doesn't linger. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And there's a very specific moment adults describe when rewatching this as the point it finally clicked. Here's what makes it different from almost everything else on this list. Disney usually cuts away the second a villain starts falling. Clayton gets a silhouette. One creative decision, and it's the reason a whole generation still brings this scene up unprompted. Clayton's death works because Disney showed you one frame too many. Our next villain's death works for the opposite reason, because it makes you watch the whole thing happen to someone who's begging. Hopper. Hopper rules through fear the entire movie. He's not the strongest bug on screen. He's just the one everyone's too scared to challenge, which is exactly why his death flips everything he built. Once the ants stop being afraid of him, Hopper is alone, powerless, and face-to-face with the one threat the movie's been quietly setting up the whole time: a nest of baby birds.
Oh, no! Oh, no!
He's carried off screaming, pleading, and dropped straight into the nest. Last thing you see is him disappearing under a swarm of hungry chicks.
Rasputin. Rasputin's already dead for most of this movie. That's what makes his final death so strange. His soul is bound to a cursed relic, so no matter what happens to his body, he keeps dragging himself back. The only way to stop him for good is to destroy the relic directly. Once it shatters, his body starts decaying on screen in real time. His skin sinks in, his limbs collapse, he crumbles into dust and bone, fully conscious the entire time, watching it happen to himself. Not a quick cut, a slow, visible dissolution you're forced to sit through stage by stage.
This one hits differently because it's not a fight going wrong, it's body horror, full stop, dropped into a musical about a lost Russian princess. A villain who's already technically dead getting to experience his own decomposition on screen is a genuinely strange thing to put in a family movie, and it's exactly why people keep bringing it up decades later. Rasputin's death is horror hiding inside a musical number. Our next entry does the opposite. It stages actual horror as a full musical number, on purpose. Dr. Facilier. Facilier plays a confident con man for the entire movie, always in control, always a step ahead. His downfall hits the moment his debt to his friends on the other side finally comes due, and it turns out those friends were never on his side to begin with. When his shadow magic runs dry, the spirits he's been working with drop their masks. Literally! Their true grotesque faces show through, and they physically drag him down into the ground while he begs for a way out. No ambiguity about where he's going.
I promise I'll be your man! I promise!
Here's the twist. This whole death is staged like a full musical number. Chanting, rhythm, choreography. That should make it less disturbing? It makes it worse. The horror is dressed up as showmanship right up until it isn't anymore. Kids walked out of theaters humming that scene's beat without fully processing they just watched a man dragged to hell by grinning demons. Facilier's death is theater, hiding horror. Our next villain's whole death is built around a reveal that makes you question what he even was in the first place.
Judge Doom. This one comes up first almost every time this topic gets brought up. On any platform, in any format, Judge Doom spends the entire movie hiding behind a human disguise, a fake voice, total calm control. When that disguise breaks, what's underneath is worse than anything the movie hinted at. He's a toon himself, wearing an elaborate human costume, complete with mechanical eyes that pop comically out of his skull the second the illusion drops. Then, in the final confrontation, he's doused in dip, the same corrosive chemical he used earlier in the movie to dissolve an innocent cartoon shoe just to make a point. Doom doesn't get a quiet death. He screams, he melts, he dissolves in real time, fully aware of what's happening, until there's nothing left but an empty coat and a pair of fake teeth on the floor. It's not just the melting effects, even though those are genuinely disturbing on their own. It's the layered reveal underneath. You find out he's not even human, and then you watch him die screaming in a scene staged as a direct homage to one of the most iconic villain deaths in film history. The movie doesn't soften 1 second of it for the kids watching. But as brutal as that is, it's still one man dying. Our final entry isn't about one villain. It's the closest animation has ever come to an on-screen apocalypse. The Horned King. This one's disturbing enough that Disney effectively buried the entire movie for years. The Horned King's whole goal is raising an unstoppable undead army using a cursed cauldron. When the ritual finally succeeds, the cauldron doesn't just hand him power, it consumes him along with everything else. As the ritual completes, the cauldron rips the Horned King's own flesh apart, stripping him to a skeleton while he's still moving, still reacting, still alive for it. His entire undead army gets sucked back into the cauldron with him, all of it dissolving together into one screaming, chaotic mass before the whole sequence collapses into darkness. This isn't a clean death, it's an extended, visceral disintegration sequence happening at the exact same time as an entire army being unmade. Widely considered one of the most intense sequences Disney animation has ever released. The studio has spent decades treating this movie like something to quietly not mention. Watch this scene once and you'll understand exactly why. It's the perfect way to close this list because it's not one villain's death. It's an apocalypse compressed into 90 seconds, and nothing else here even comes close to that scale. 8 villains, 8 studios pushing exactly as far as they could get away with in movies technically rated for kids. What's wild going back through all of these is how differently each one earns its darkness. Syndrome's is irony. Muntz's is silence. Clayton's is restraint. Hopper's is vulnerability. Rasputin's is decay. Facilier's is theater hiding horror. Judge Doom's is a reveal stacked on a reveal. And the Horned King's is scale. The closest thing animation's ever done to an on-screen apocalypse. Animation gets sold as a genre for kids. These 8 scenes are proof some of the most unsettling moments in film history happen to be drawn instead of filmed. Which one actually got to you? Drop it in the comments.
Subscribe to the channel. Help us 1,000 subscribers.